My name is Enid Davila. I'm 33 years old. And 3 days before my wedding, my father called me and said something that should have broken me. I'm not walking you down the aisle, he said flatly. Your sister doesn't want you getting that kind of attention. Before I could even process it, my mother's voice cut in from the background, sharp, almost amused. Just walk alone, she said. Who would even want to be seen with you anyway? There was a time when words like that would have shattered me. But not anymore. Because by then, I already knew the truth. I knew what they had done. I knew what they had almost gotten away with. And I knew that in exactly 3 days, everything they had built, their reputation, their lies, their carefully constructed image, was going to collapse. In front of everyone. 7 years earlier, I was 26. March 15, 2019. The last thing I remember before everything went black. There was a pair of headlights running a red light. Then impact. Then silence. When I woke up, the world felt wrong. Too bright. Too loud. Too distant. The smell hit me first, sterile, sharp hospital disinfectant. Then the rhythmic beeping of machines. Then pain, deep, pulsing, like my skull had been split open and stitched back together. I tried to speak, but my throat felt like sandpaper. A nurse leaned over me, her voice soft. Hey, take it easy. You've been unconscious for over a week. A week. 8 days, I would later learn. 8 days during which my life had been hanging by a thread. 8 days during which decisions had been made for me. Decisions that should have been about saving me. But we weren't. My parents were standing beside my bed. I remember looking at them, waiting, expecting something. Relief. Emotion. Tears. Anything. But they didn't smile. They didn't cry. They didn't even step closer. They just looked at me. And the only word I could find for that look was disappointment. Well, my mother said finally, adjusting her purse strap. You're awake. That was it. No, thank God. No, we were so worried. Just, you're awake. My father didn't say anything at all. He stood with his arms crossed, staring at the monitor beside my bed like he was reviewing numbers. Even then, weak and disoriented, something inside me felt off. But I ignored it. Because I was alive. And I thought that was enough. Recovery wasn't a miracle. It was slow. Painful. Humiliating. I had to relearn how to stand without falling. How to walk without dizziness swallowing me whole. How to focus without my vision blurring. Every small victory came with frustration. And every moment, my family felt distant. My mother sighed constantly, like my existence was an inconvenience. My father checked his watch during visits, as if timing how long he had to stay. My sister? She didn't come. She sent a text. Hope you feel better. Work's crazy. I made excuses for them. I told myself trauma affects people differently. I told myself they were just overwhelmed. I told myself anything. Except the truth. Because the truth was something I wasn't ready to face yet. Not until years later. Not until I found something I was never supposed to see. But before that, you need to understand what happened while I was unconscious. Because that's where the story really begins. When I was brought into the hospital, I had a severe brain injury. Bleeding inside my skull. Pressure building. Time running out. The neurosurgeon explained it clearly to my parents. Emergency surgery. $320,000. 85% chance I would survive and recover. Without it, a high chance I would die within days. Most parents, in that moment, ask one question. Will my child live? Mine didn't. My father's first question was, what happens if she doesn't make it? The doctor paused, then explained. Without surgery, death was likely. My mother didn't ask how to save me. She asked, how long before we'd know? Then came the question that changed everything. The one that would echo in my mind years later. What's the cost difference? There was a cheaper option. Medication. Monitoring. A fraction of the price. But only about a 30% chance of survival. They asked for time to think. They walked out into the hallway. They thought they were alone. They weren't. Because the doctor kept listening. And what he heard. It was the moment my parents stopped being my parents. It would be better if she didn't wake up, my mother whispered. Because of the insurance. I had a life insurance policy. $500,000. They were the beneficiaries. In that hallway, my life became a calculation. And they chose. They chose the cheaper treatment. They chose the higher chance of my death. They chose money over me. But the doctor made a choice too. He operated anyway, without their consent, knowing it could cost him everything. And it did. I survived. He lost his career. And I didn't find out until 5 years later. By then, I had rebuilt my life, piece by fragile piece. I lived alone, worked hard, paid my own bills. I wasn't thriving, but I was standing. Meanwhile, my family was doing more than fine. My sister bought a house. My parents were comfortable, carefree, unbothered. It didn't make sense until the day I found a document in their attic. A hospital bill. Procedure code. $320,000 surgery. Completed. Paid. My hands were shaking when I read it. Because that surgery was the one they had refused. Which meant one thing. They had lied. To everyone. And when I started digging, the truth didn't just surface. It exploded. Emails. Insurance inquiries. Payment timelines. They had been asking about the payout before deciding on my treatment. Court records. They had sued the doctor who saved me. Claimed he acted without permission. Claimed he harmed me. They won. $180,000. That money went straight to my sister. Her house. Her fresh start. Everything clicked into place. I wasn't the miracle. I was the one who survived the inconvenience. And when I finally heard the recording, my mother's voice saying it would be better if I died, something inside me changed. I stopped being confused. Stopped being hurt. Stopped hoping they'd explain. And I became certain. I didn't confront them right away. I didn't scream. Didn't cry. Didn't beg. I waited. For the right moment. My wedding. March 15th. 7 years to the day. The room was perfect. White flowers. Soft music. 200 guests. Everyone smiling. Everyone believes the same lie. Then the doors opened. And I didn't walk in alone. The man who stepped beside me. It was the same man who saved my life. The one they tried to destroy. The moment my mother saw him, she stood up in panic. He wasn't supposed to be here. And just like that, the illusion cracked. The ceremony was short, quiet, tense. Then came the reception. And the moment. I stood in front of everyone. Heart steady. Voice clear. And I told the truth. I told them about the accident. The coma. The choice my parents made. I played the recording. My mother's voice echoed through the room. Cold. Final. Unmistakable. Gasps filled the silence. Faces turned. Whispers spread. Then came the evidence. Emails. Financial trails. Fraud. And finally, the consequences. Legal documents. Charges. Accountability. For the first time in 7 years. They had nowhere to hide. They were escorted out. Not as respected parents, but as people are exposed. And I stayed. I danced. I smiled. I lived. Because that day wasn't just about revenge. It was about truth. 7 years ago, they chose money over my life. But that day, I chose myself. And for the first time, I was finally free. If you thought the story ended at my wedding, you'd be wrong. Because exposing the truth was only the beginning. What came after? That's where everything really changed. The night of the wedding, I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel revenge. I felt quiet. Like a storm had finally passed after years of building. Tyler and I sat in the car outside the venue for a few minutes before driving away. Neither of us spoke. We didn't need to. Everything that had been buried for 7 years was now out in the open. And there was no going back. The next morning, my phone exploded. Messages. Missed calls. Notifications. People I hadn't spoken to in years were reaching out. Some were shocked. Some were supportive. Some didn't know what to say at all. And then, the news hit. By noon, local outlets had picked it up. Family fraud exposed at wedding ceremony. Bride reveals parents' insurance plot in public confrontation. Clips of the audio. Screenshots of the evidence boards. Photos from the reception. It spread faster than I expected. Because stories like this, they don't stay quiet. My parents didn't issue a statement at first. They tried to disappear. But you can't disappear when there's evidence. When there are recordings. When there are documents. When there are 200 witnesses. 3 days later, the first official move happened. They were formally charged. Insurance fraud. Financial exploitation. Conspiracy. And my sister? Medicaid fraud. Filing false claims. Theft. I didn't attend the arrest. I didn't watch. I didn't need to. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't chasing answers anymore. The truth had already spoken. But I did attend the first hearing. Not for them. For me. The courtroom felt colder than I expected. My parents sat at the defense table. Smaller than I remembered. Not powerful. Not confident. Just exposed. My father didn't look at me. Not once. My mother did. And when our eyes met, I didn't see anger. I didn't see guilt. I saw something worse. Resentment. Like even now, she blamed me. That was the moment something inside me settled permanently. Not anger. Not sadness. Just clarity. The prosecution didn't need theatrics. They had facts. Audio recordings. Email chains. Financial transfers. Medical records. A timeline that couldn't be twisted. My father's emails were read out loud in court. Every word. Every calculation. Every question about payout timelines. Before he even knew if I would live. The room went silent when the hallway recording played. My mother's voice. It would be better if she didn't wake up. There are moments in life when everything becomes undeniable. That was one of them. The defense tried. They said it was taken out of context. They said emotions were high. They said stress changes how people speak. But there's a difference between fear and planning. And everyone in that courtroom could see it. Then came my sister's turn. Her case was different, but just as damaging. 24 fraudulent claims. 6 years. Money taken for care she never provided. All in my name. She cried during her testimony. Said she felt pressured. Said she didn't understand what she was doing. But the paperwork told a different story. Signatures. Dates. Consistent patterns. You don't accidentally commit fraud for 6 years. The verdict didn't come immediately. It took time. Weeks of arguments. Evidence. Deliberation. During that time, my life felt strangely calm. For the first time, I wasn't waiting for something to go wrong. I wasn't doubting my reality. I wasn't questioning my own memory. I had proof. And that changes everything. Tyler and I settled into a routine. Quiet mornings. Long walks. Conversations that didn't revolve around pain. And slowly, I started to feel something unfamiliar. Peace. The verdict came in May. My father was found guilty. Attempted insurance fraud. Financial exploitation. 18 months in prison. Restitution ordered. My mother pleaded guilty to conspiracy. She avoided prison. But not consequences. Probation. Public record. Reputation gone. And my sister? She lost everything. Her teaching license was revoked. Her job is gone. Her income is gone. The house? Under investigation. She didn't go to prison. But sometimes, losing the life you built is its own kind of sentence. I attended the sentencing. Not because I needed closure, but because I wanted to witness the end of something. The judge didn't hold back. Parents are meant to protect their children, he said. Do and calculate their financial value. My father stared at the floor. My mother cried. My sister didn't look up. And me? I felt nothing. Not emptiness. Not numbness. Just distance. Because by then, they weren't my family anymore. They were people who made a choice. And now, they were living with it. After everything was over, people asked me the same question. Over and over. Do you forgive them? And I thought about it. Really thought about it. Forgiveness isn't simple. It isn't something you owe. It isn't something that erases what happened. So I gave the only honest answer I had. I don't need to. Because forgiveness wasn't what set me free. Truth did. Walking away did. Choosing myself did. I changed jobs. Started working alongside Tyler, helping identify fraud cases. Ironically, the same system that was used against me became the place where I found purpose. We bought a small house. Nothing extravagant. But it was ours. Built on honesty. Not lies. We got a dog. A golden retriever named Copper. He doesn't care about the past. He just knows who shows up. And that's what I learned too. Family isn't who you're born into. It's who stands beside you when it matters. I never spoke to my parents again. They tried. Letters. Calls. I returned everything unopened. Not out of anger, but because some doors, once closed, should stay closed. Sometimes people hear my story and say I was harsh, that I exposed too much, that I should have handled it privately. But those people don't understand something. They tried to bury me quietly. They tried to write an ending where I didn't exist. All I did was refuse to stay silent. 7 years ago, they made their choice. And in the end, so did I. I chose truth. I chose justice. I chose peace. And most importantly, I chose myself.